Uh, Good evening and welcome to Beauteous Past TV. We have in a series of leadership exclusive, we are honored to have with us Mr. Tony Chin, CEO, Beauty Concepts Private Limited, one of India's leading distributors of luxury and prestige products in cosmetics and also accessories in like travel and luxury watches. We are privileged to have him with us. And Tony, welcome to Beauteous Past TV. We would like we would like to start this conversation with a bit of giving a perspective on beauty concepts. We understand that you have a portfolio of 80 products, and you are spread across retail formats from department stores to exclusive brand stores and even online. So could you just give us a perspective of how you kind of have categorized these brands and where do you kind of have challenges given the current COVID situation?
Okay. First and foremost, the brands are categorized according to their brand positioning. Right. So one of the criteria obviously is in pricing. Luxury products will be priced much higher, limited distribution, and of course the ingredients and the components going into that particular product will be far higher quality. So we have categories from all the way, a bottle of fragrance can cost $500 US, all the way down to a more mass market product that can be a few dollars US. So we cover the entire price spectrum in that respect.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
And so yeah. Please go ahead about the challenges.
So, yes, for the challenges, I think it is important to note that the lockdown in India has been one of the longest in the world, and it cuts across the entire country. So we see all the physical stores, not only the physical stores, but also the online platforms being, I would say, cease operation. The online platforms were a little bit unusual because the government had also ceased operation and allow it to function only for essential products. Essential products, for example, medication, for example, foodstuff, and so on. And also, in a sense that online operations, while it's ongoing, the delivery infrastructure has also been disrupted because transportation is a problem. Implementation of it across different states have different policies and so on. So everything was a little unclear, and we had no business for a good part of 2 months.
Yes.
Zero business. So that's a very big challenge for us.
Yes. And so we will talk about the various brands in your portfolio and how you have built them so far. Like you have extremely, prestige brands like Guerlain, and you've also opened a niche perfumery recently. And then you have the joint venture with L'Occitane. You have 15 stores and growing. What has been your experience with all these brands, and going forward, how do you see this panning out in terms of online versus sales from directly from the stores?
Well, definitely, I believe that this COVID-19 infection crisis has forced everybody to take a harder look into restructuring our business model and where the priority should be. Online is obviously going to take market share from physical stores because with this COVID-19 infection, social distancing will become the norm until and unless a vaccine or a cure can be found for this virus. With social distancing, the impact will be felt across all offline stores. For example, there will be reduced footfall into the malls, and it is in the mall where you find most of the point of sales, whether it's department store or standalone stores. So foot traffic and business is expected to be much lower, at least for the next quarter. And we also already seen a lot of retailers implementing certain measures and protocols in terms of having a number of people working within their point of sales. So for example, a retailer has already informed us to say that they will only allow 50% of staff from the norms to be operating within each store. So that will have an impact. We expect less people there, and therefore people will shift towards online, where hopefully the delivery infrastructure will come back to normal, and things will become better.
Sure.
So that's what we see.
Yeah. And how about L'Occitane, the joint venture? It's very interesting. Just tell us about the joint venture and how you think, because I believe that even L'Occitane is building its category as far as hand care is concerned, with sanitizers and other things, other products being added in that category because they see that growing. So in India, what is your plan with L'Occitane, given that it is a brand that's been liked and it's growing because of its botanical origins, etc.?
Yes. One of the lesser known things is that L'Occitane is a brand that is very focused on sustainability. They have their own global network of products. They are being very socially responsible in terms of ensuring that everything is environmentally friendly, including packaging, including ingredients sourced from sustainable sources. L'Occitane as a brand is a very interesting concept, in the sense that it is an aspiration for people, for lifestyle products. You're talking about natural products that is even before the world trend comes along in terms of having everything organic, natural. L'Occitane has been going that direction for a long time. It's just that perhaps the global trend comes into play in the past 5, 6, 7 years. Prior to that, L'Occitane has already been along producing product in that category. Now, L'Occitane, going forward, you will see a lot of emphasis going into online. We have an entire online division from the headquarters, L'Occitane headquarters, supporting the local team. And the local team, we also work in collaboration with all the different platforms to bring products to people. As you know, we have only 15, 17 physical stores in India, and these are all located in the major metros. So you cannot cover a big proportion of the population in the 3rd tier, 4th tier cities. And this is where online will play an important part. Not only explaining the product efficiency, the product inspiration, and bringing the products to people, it allows them to try the product, to buy the product without too much of a hassle. So that's an important development for us. So one of the focus will be on online, not only to consumers directly, but also to what we call B2C, B2B kind of business. For example, we are approaching and collaborating with big corporations where you have a sizable employee base, and we are talking about how to help them in terms of skincare regime, grooming, as well as helping them have staff motivational kind of benefits and things like that. So we are going different directions. We need to think out of the box during this challenging times.
Definitely. And then we have to talk about the very niche fragrance stores that you have created through Maison de Parfum, which is a unique concept for India. And What kind of insights led you to creating it in the first place, and what has been the response so far?
Okay. Okay. It's an interesting concept in that sense, because as distributors, we were always being asked, why are you not into retail? For us, retail means going into shopping malls and opening up shops, offering the same products that we have, working with partners like Shoppers Stop, all the department stores, major department stores, and we felt that it was always a conflict of interest.
Yes.
So we started to look at what are the major trends around the world to see where are the opportunities, where are the potential, where we would not compete directly with our retail partners. So this is where we saw an interesting trend that the niche fragrances is one of the only major categories in fragrances that's growing very, very fast, while the mainstream fragrances are struggling with low single-digit growth over the last few years. So this was something that started us thinking some 3-4 years ago. We had to travel to Europe to look at what other people have been doing, finding ideas, finding and refining our concepts, approaching the right brands to put together a concept. The whole idea is that some people would say that this concept, looking at a very expensive price point, is a little too early for India. But we felt that India has a certain category of customers that's very discerning, a well-traveled, high net worth individual with spending power, disposable income, and they are able to look for something that's more individual rather than a me too kind of fragrance. In mainstream, it is over exposed. There's a lot of advertising. You hear about all the popular brands that you mentioned easily. Everybody else is using it. So for this more discerning and sophisticated individual, they want something special, something different. And so that's why we brought this particular project into India. Now, we have been very fortunate. We have very good relationship with the mall operators and have been able to get 2 very good locations. And within 6 months of starting these first two concept stores, we were already breaking even, which is quite rare if you look at the kind of business in India.
It is quite a surprise.
Yes, but the good thing about this particular concept is it is a business where you hardly find the products available online. You don't find it being discounted. So this business model has been quite interesting for us in the sense that we don't give discount. We don't give what we call GWPs or induce the customer to buy. They come to the store for an experience. So our staff is a little different from the usual sales girl that comes across as being very aggressive, pushing sales. Our staff are mainly, I would call them more managerial kind of level of staff. They are very well trained. They are able to engage and communicate with the customers, not pressurizing them to buy. They have no sales target. What is important is that we measure the very different parameters for them. We measure customer complaints, customer retention, how many contacts they have made, and things like that. So that the kind of, if you treat the customer well going into the store, that particular customer may not buy that first time. But if you treat them well, they will come back and say, okay, when I want to buy something special, I will come back. And that's how we have been able to build a very good base for our business for this particular new business vertical. And the good news is we are planning, in fact, we got the location already. We are planning to open a large flagship store in Mumbai soon.
Okay.
So this is the development for us.
That's great. So before I go to the next category, which is very interesting, wellness and grooming, those brands I would like to talk about, because this is going to be very, wellness is the next trend, as they say, all the All the agencies who've done a survey on the beauty industry say wellness is going to be the thing in future if it's not already there. I wanted to understand that, Tony, with all these brands, your beauty advisors have to be really, kind of up to the mark. We've already discussed about Maison and Parfum, but I've also seen them at L'Occitane, and it's a very different kind of training. I can just tell you that, I must commend you about this, that, it's really, the stores are really global. There's obviously no difference in the presentation. But for the first time, I am feeling that even the beauty advisors in all these stores are exactly like what, the globally we experience, where there is no pushing, there's only kind of helping you out with the products when you ask. So how has this training come about? What does it take to train the BAs?
It's really a long drawn affair, because it doesn't happen overnight. I think we have to change the mindset of all our staff to say that sometimes the more you push, the worse it becomes, because you cannot convert it into a sale. I think people nowadays, they are very well connected to the internet, and they can find out information very, very easily. So you have to, how should I say, be able to convince them that the product is suitable for them. And it's not just a simple thing of telling them about the ingredient, etc. You have to connect with them emotionally. Find out what they want, rather than just pushing the product to them. So these are part of the training process that we have. And we even employ foreign trainers, not just from the brand, but independent training consultants to come into India to train our staff. And this has been very, very helpful for us. So we have been able to come up with quite a fair bit of training protocols for everybody. The other thing is that despite this period of disruption where the whole of India is under lockdown, we have also been quite innovative. We have conducted training through Zoom with all the different brands. Not only just normal training, but having fun and games to engage the beauty consultants, so that to keep them fresh in their mind in terms of the product knowledge, teaching them new ways of engaging the customers and things like that. So that has been very positive, but it has been a challenge as well, because you have a lot of the BAs not, how should I say, the internet connection is not so stable, and you have interruptions along the way. So, but we are still pushing forward and continuing this entire training program for everybody. Yeah.
So that's how you also perhaps maintain the motivation. We also realized in course of a lot of conversations that we are having in the past few weeks that this is an industry that also employs a lot of migrant, labor in India, because beauty and salon businesses especially. So, so how do you also balance the mental stress that goes on into the apprehensions that people have about losing their jobs, etc.? Oh, I would like to hear about that.
I think first and foremost, we have reassured everybody about their job security. I think we have been very fair with them in terms of providing for them during this difficult time. Many other industries in India, the moment they stop work, they just lay off the workers. We have kept everybody, and we try to sustain everybody through their basic needs. I think that has been an important part, and it shows in the sense that a lot of our staff have been with us for many years. And in the beauty industry, it is very notorious, very high, I would say, fallout rate. People join and then they move along for more salary or for whatever reason. We have been able to keep this quite low, and it's a blessing in disguise in the sense that we have been, I think, fair and treated everybody fair and well. So that has been a very positive thing for us. It is painful for us, nonetheless. For 2-3 months with no business inflow, yet there is expenses to take care of. It's certainly very challenging for everybody.
Yes. Thank you. Another thing is that what kind of support have you had from the suppliers? Like you've got for ages, I know that you have distributed the luxury brands like Hermes and Ferragamo and others. How are the suppliers? I mean, how are these brands supporting you when it comes to this kind of a situation?
The brands has been I would instead of calling them partners, I even call them friends. A lot of them have been with us together for a long time. Yes. They have been very understanding. They themselves in their own countries have been feeling the impact tremendously, and yet they have been understanding enough to look at the fact that sales has not happened. There's no inflows, whereas we have to maintain essential outflows. Yes. Like salaries and so on. They have been understanding. They have been extending help in the sense that helping us to plan for the future. How do we, when we restart, how do we then attract more customers to buy? How do we tackle in terms of forecasts and so on? They have been working very closely with us, and I'm thankful for that they are understanding in this respect.
That's great. And how is the retail space going to change? How is it going to look physically? How are the beauty advisors going to look post-COVID, post the lockdown? Can you just tell us a little bit?
I think most of us expect a few phases.
Yeah.
We have spoken to different people within the industry as well as other industry. I think the first phase after the lifting of the lockdown in between June to September, we would expect things to be slowly returning to normal. If you look at the physical store, maybe in June you will see 10%, 20% of a normal month's sales. Then subsequently it will increase another 10%, 20%. We think that by October, maybe September, October, you will see things returning closer to normalcy. Because Diwali, everybody is looking forward after being locked down and after being curtailed in terms of their spending. People do have a little bit what I call craving. Yes. To do, coming out to shop and things like that, to spend and to go back to social norms. So we see that way. But in any case, I would say even if the last quarter is performing better than previous year's last quarter, we think that this year, with the missing 2-3 months of sales, you will see anywhere or a drop of anywhere between 25 to maybe 40-50%. It all depends on which product and which category you're looking at.
Sure. And I would like to bring you back to the grooming and wellness category, where you have brands like pollution free and all these concepts you've brought together. And so, what are the brands? How have you picked up the brands, and what are you trying to? How are you trying to put this category together?
Okay, we have many friends in the beauty industry. I personally have been in the industry for 30 over years. We do have a network of friends who have recommendations, and we do look into trends around the world. The wellness trend, in a way, it doesn't happen now. It was already been happening for quite a while. I think this COVID-19 crisis sort of bring out this global trend faster and more, highlighting it to everybody. Wellness is a state of mind. It is not just about product, but it's about product that makes you feel good.
Right.
when you feel good, it could be psychological, in the sense that you feel that if you use a product that is sustainable and doing social good in terms of ensuring that a certain community providing that ingredient is able to sustain their livelihood and things like that, you feel much better to spend. Things like that helps a fair bit. There are many brands that are coming up now. The only problem is finding the right one and bringing the right products and pricing at the correct pricing into India. And India for cosmetic and skincare product is still quite a challenging thing, because you have a very bureaucratic product registration regime. And so that is something, is a hurdle that all of us have to maneuver, have to overcome. So we first and foremost write on recommendations from a lot of our friends and companies and brands. We look at the trends, and we look at other criteria, for example, pricing, is it affordable, which are the target market we want to aim for, and things like that. So multiple factors. We are starting this on a smaller scale, I would say. It's just a start, but we think that for the future, this category will likely see very high growth.
So which of these brands are you think will take off in India more than others? You've got about 4 brands here.
Okay, first and foremost, India is, I would say, men's grooming is a very interesting category. If you look at the current men's grooming, it is growing very fast in online businesses. I quote you a few examples. Beardo, the Men Company. These brands are virtually unheard of 3-4 years ago, and now they are extremely well distributed and doing a very good business across India. I believe men needs to find good products. They have been using products that are generally more mass market than anything else, and they are, I would say, more and more discerning, more particular about grooming themselves. So we see a great opportunity there. Hawkins and Bramble is an interesting UK brand. It is not a big brand, but I think we tend to go for brands that has interesting background in terms of the founder. We see the founder being very passionate, able to drive the business for a longer term, and that's why the collaboration will be far easier rather than working with a big multinational company where you have a lot of rules and regulations in place. So sometimes working with an independent company, smaller ones, but driven by a passionate owner, could be an advantage in that sense.
That's great. Finally, there are a few things that I would like to ask about the distribution as a business. So we have lots of distributors in our country who are suppliers to salon industry, to spa industry, the small ones just starting off, and they are suffering under the damages they are having to pay to the shipping lines, and all those things are the chaos that has happened due to COVID. But even otherwise, there are certain issues there that are there's some practice, not the best practices, but those practices which harm business. What is it that you suggest, or as a brand that has been repeatedly doing such great work on the market for so many years, what is it that you advise or recommend to these newer distributors who are on the market? What are the good things or guidelines that you would like to tell them?
I personally think Indians make good entrepreneurs. You see even a gentleman gentleman will put together his life saving and set up a store to sell vegetables on the roadside. That's an entrepreneur, you know. I feel that in the distribution business, in the beauty business, it is a business that requires a lot of risk taking. The business model that we operate on is on a consignment basis, so-called consignment basis. So you need to have very deep pockets. So because of that, you need size, you need infrastructure to be able to reach out to the entire country. India is a big country. You cannot operate just in 3-4 big cities. You need to cover the entire territory. So you need to have scale and size before you can reap the benefits from that. So I think in the future, you will see perhaps more and more smaller companies facing challenges and opting out from this business. Because not only do you have to contend with business operating on consignment basis, you also have to contend with the online channel where anybody can put a product on the channel, whether it is legitimate or not legitimate. You have to contend with that. And so if you don't have the means to counter all this and present a very good experience to your consumer on the physical side of things, then you are in trouble. It's not easy. So as a distributor, I would say you need a few things. You need to have deep pockets. You need to have scale and size. And more importantly, you need to have the correct brand mix that the people want. If you read the right trends and invest in brands that will cater for future preferences of the consumer, then you're on the right track. But if you keep doing the same thing, I think one day it will come a time where your products will be overtaken by new brands. I think nowadays every one of us looking for something new, always looking for something new, and that's the problem. So as a distributor, I would always say we walk on a tightrope. We can not stop running. We have to constantly look for new things, new brands, but at the same time, we cannot forego the existing partnerships that we have with all the brands. Having such a long relationship and collaboration with them, we need to also take good care of them for the longer term. And then as the market trend changes, we have to then find ways and means to handle and manage such changes together. Yeah, this is how I feel about distribution business in India for the future.
Okay, fantastic. And if you were to have a wish list for the government of India about imports, what would that wish list look like?
Wow, I hope I wouldn't be. I have a long wish list. I think first and foremost, from the point of import, it is important to make it less cumbersome. Import duties are rather high. Perhaps the government can find other ways of having revenues, but this is not something for me to say. Import duties are high. Therefore, in terms of pricing, the local market always have a disadvantage versus other places. So you see a lot of Indians traveling overseas to buy because product there, whether it's in Dubai or in Europe, it's cheaper. But that has been mitigated in the sense that we have tried to put our pricing on par, if not at the most 5–10% above the other markets. Second point, which I wanted to highlight, is the product registration process. It is very complicated, and it delays the launches of many of the products because it requires very specific and detailed documentations and so on. And that delay means that a new product that's launched globally sometimes cannot be launched at the same time as for example, the home market in France, for example, because so long as the documentation has a spelling that's wrong, the entire submission is rejected. So those things, if the government can help to simplify those things, it will help a lot. Then India will be can launch new products at the same time as the rest. The other thing I would say is more in terms of the physical infrastructure within India. Physical infrastructure, it is improving with air travels, with roads and so on, with railways. However, if you look at the physical infrastructure for retail, it is still very much privately driven and not so regulated from the central government. So here you have a problem of real estate being very, very expensive. It doesn't help the retail industry very much, because when you have high rentals, the brand will have to make a very hard decision whether to go into to open a store. You have to look at the P&L and things like that. So rental component becomes a major consideration. So you notice that a lot of brands are hesitant to come into India purely because from the P&L point of view, the rental is really very high versus the sales itself. In fact, I would say it's higher than, for example, in Mumbai, in Delhi, in Bangalore, it's even higher than many other major cities when you measure rental and sales as a ratio. This is some of the physical problems that I hope maybe one day things can change. Other than that, I think generally India has been an interesting marketplace for the beauty industry, because I always like to say India is not like China. China is growing because the government directs them, you know, to tell everybody what to do, and they just go ahead and implement all the policies. India is growing despite all the chaos you see, despite all the missteps is being taken, and yet it's growing. So I think India has a long-term future. If only some of the chaos is being taken care of, I can see great potential there for the long-term future.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. As we leave, we have a little small conversation with our CEOs and leaders where we try to figure out what their personal choices are when it comes to personal care and grooming. And if you don't mind, I would like to ask you those quick questions as to what are your grooming, choices in terms of what you use for your hair, your skincare, your fitness and wellness regime.
Okay. I am in a way spoiled because we do get to try a lot of new products and so on. But at the present moment, I like to use L'Occitane. L'Occitane, the basic cleansers are very, very good. It comes in the pump form. So for men, it's always, I would say, ease of use, you know, no hassle. You just right next to you at the basin and you just pump on your hand and you can wash your face. And then lately I've been using the Karma Ayurvedic, the rose water spray has been very good, very refreshing. Again, it's easy, quick and fast. And after washing, you spray on it and you feel fresh and moisturized. Once in a while, you'll use some other moisturizing cream and so on, new products to try. Other than that, fragrances, I have a lot. But I always encourage people to try the niche fragrances, because once you use it, any one of them that you find is suitable for you, you will find that it will never be the same again, because the ingredients and the complexity of each of the fragrance is very, very interesting. At the present moment, I am using one of the more interesting one from Diptyque. Diptyque is an interesting French niche fragrance brand. It gives you the sense of being in a forest. So this is something quite refreshing. nothing like walking into a crowded place and someone, you know, comments and you smell like you put on a Calvin Klein or something like that. It's never, it's very, very unique. Yeah. So these are some of the things that I like at the present moment.
And what about your fitness and wellness regime?
Fitness. I am still playing competitive sports. I play softball. I have a softball league in Singapore that we play every weekend, and I do have a team that travels to overseas tournament once in a while. So that helps a lot, and I have a good group of friends to catch up and get together. So that helps a lot.
Any favorite books you would like to share with us?
Favorite books? Oh, oh dear. I think favorite books. I have not been reading much lately, but I do have a Bible.
Anything, or shows, or podcasts, anything.
I do have a regular reading habit. I read all the news in the morning, but I do have a book. I have a Bible that, you know, you never get tired of it because there's always something interesting that you read, a certain part of it that you can relate to your life. Yeah. So that's about it.
Thank you so much, Tony. You're really sporting. And I'm really grateful that you took out your time and came on BTS Past TV. Have a great evening, and all the best for the lockdown opening very quickly. Stay safe.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.